The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Folks, just keep fighting. Never, never, never stop fighting. We're not stopping here, that's for darn sure. And we appreciate each of you coming alongside us and joining us. We have some other folks in our corner who also are not stopping the fight. That is the National Center for Public Policy, and I've got here with me the executive director of the Free Enterprise Project, one of their think tanks, Stefan Padfield. Stefan and his team, they work tirelessly to keep American corporate life free from woke nonsense. Stefan, we're delighted to have you on the show today, brother.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's obviously a sad day. Multiple things going on. I mean, first and foremost, the evil and tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk that we all witnessed yesterday, and then we're reflecting on September 11th, which we need to reflect upon as well. So lots going on, and certainly those things are priorities. But I also do appreciate taking a bit of time with you today to talk about the specific issues about European censorship of American speech and so on.
Absolutely. Stefan, let's actually start with what happened yesterday, because I really do think that's going to tie in well with what we're going to talk about with the European censorship. Charlie was just a giant when it comes, first of all, to his Christian faith, but also to utilizing the gift of free speech so well. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. And I think it's perfectly in line with these issues, because I don't know how much of the things that he said and did would be allowed in modern day Europe or the UK. I mean, we see it every day.
Yeah.
And, I was reflecting this morning about Charlie Kirk just generally, and this assassination in particular. And I have to say, and I'm sure I'm not alone with this, I had so many different thoughts and feelings arising. It's difficult. I know it's difficult. But I really tried to get some clarity, and what came through for me, in prayer really was that Charlie was first and foremost about engagement. You know what I mean? He knew what time it was, as he liked to say. He knew about the demonic possession of aspects of our society that he was dealing with. And I don't think I'm being, exaggerating what he was dealing with there. And yet he put himself literally in the line of fire day in and day out after seeing what happened with the attempted assassination of President Trump and all the other examples that we can come up with. He continued to engage, to put himself front and center, to have conversations, to try to win hearts and minds, to speak the truth, to focus on the facts, in a world that we live in where those things, the truth and the facts, are just run roughshod over. And I think that's really my main takeaway. And yes, the tragedy, with his family, his wife, his children, praying for them is first and foremost. But in terms of thinking about moving forward to some extent, I think to honor him is to honor his commitment to engagement in the face of all the forces that try to divert us from that try to move us in directions of hate and conflict. Just to keep engaging wherever possible is really the way that I'm going to try to honor his legacy myself in however I can.
Well, Stefano, I'm going to do the same thing with you, brother, and I'm so honored to see that you guys are doing that with the platform that you have. Thank you for those wonderful words, brother. Let's use that now as kind of a turn here as we look at what's going on, what you guys are doing to do that exact thing, to keep engaging, especially when it comes to this free speech stuff here, brother. So it seems like Microsoft is allegedly colluding with the EU to censor free speech. This is downright disturbing. What can you tell us about this? What exactly is going on here?
Sure. So just to take a big step back, I'm sure you and your viewers and listeners are aware of what's been going on in the past week or two in terms of highlighting the concerns about the EU and the UK and their censorship regimes, and how that is basically being back channeled into the US, right? So we've got a variety of laws in the Digital Safety Act, I believe, is the one in the EU. There's a similar one in the UK. And so these are very concerning. They put pressure on U.S. corporations, which then in turn are likely to just carry over that censorship to U.S. citizens. So that's one concern. The other is simply that there's a way in which government can essentially end run the First Amendment. And this is a concern that came out of the Biden administration, where we saw some real collusion with tech companies to censor a speech that didn't fit the leftist narrative, right? And so the question with Microsoft is more complicated. I want to be very clear about that up front. We really are asking questions, but basically what it comes down to, they announced at the end of July that they were essentially offering AI tools for free to the EU and the UK and other countries to deal with cybersecurity, right? And at first blush, that seems like, okay, you just want to stop malware, right? That's great. You want to stop hacking. But the problem is, when we looked into it a little more, it's not really clear where those lines are. And I think we have to be very concerned about the various entities that will have access to these tools, using them to censor speech. Because when you follow down the rabbit hole just a little bit and you look at the entities that are lining up to take advantage of these services, they are very upfront about the way they're going to use, quote unquote, hate speech regulation and misinformation regulation to censor speech. And so it's very concerning. And so we filed this proposal. And a lot of times we'll keep the proposal essentially on the down low, right? We won't publicize it because we want to give an opportunity to the company to negotiate and explain. But in this case, with all the news that was coming out around these concerns, we just decided that it was important to make clear that this issue was going on with Microsoft. And again, if they come to the table and are able to offer answers that make clear how there's no way that this can be abused in the ways that we're concerned about, that would be great. But we haven't heard anything from them. And I think there's clearly enough there, both in terms of the history and the details of the actual program, including the use of AI, to make this particularly concerning. And I'll just end with one point on this particular rant I'm going on right now.
Yeah, please.
Which is that, the Microsoft will not, or at least the research we've done has not allowed U.S. law enforcement to use facial recognition tools, right? But then they turn right around and give the EU for free this access to this technology. So again, we're asking questions. We would love it if Microsoft came clean and made clear there's no problems, but we are very concerned.
Yeah. Stefan, have you heard anything from Microsoft yet, or has it been radio silence up to this point?
It's basically been radio silence. So we expect typically that there will be some call for engagement. It's unusual for these companies. I mean, we do this all the time. This is one of the main things we do, is engage with corporations, try to get them back to neutral, try to get them out of the woke politicization game they're playing, right? And so we're still waiting to hear back in terms of an actual concrete ask for engagement. I'm sure they'll try to keep it off of their proxy statement by going to the SEC and asking to exclude the proposal. I expect that, and we'll engage in that process as well. We're familiar with that. But to this point, it's basically been radio silence. And again, I would love to, going back to the whole point, Charlie Kirk engagement, I want to hear from them. I want to talk to them, and I'm happy to pull all this back if they, show us that our concerns are, basically taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, we're talking to Stefan Padfield here. Of course, he's the executive director of the Free Enterprise Project at the National Center. Stefan, I so appreciate this great work that you are engaging in. This is necessary, brother. Let me ask you this as well. We're talking about Microsoft. To your knowledge, are there any other companies that are doing some nefarious things like this, colluding with the EU to try to censor free speech?
So to this point, we've only focused ourselves on Microsoft, but now that we've seen the ways in which this is, sort of a labyrinth that you have to walk through to check where the problems are, we're definitely, as we go into shareholder proposal season, we're going to look more and more. Because you look at Jim Jordan, for example, I mean, he's been great in terms of holding these companies accountable. He had some hearings and contacted a variety of firms, right? Sort of the laundry list of big tech companies when he was concerned about the way they were colluding with the Biden administration. And he's been on this focus more recently with what the European Union is doing and what the UK is doing. And those concerns stretch beyond Microsoft. That's clear. So we're going to keep looking for opportunities to highlight these issues and get clarity. But at this point, we're just focused on Microsoft from our end.
Yeah. And would you say with this, Stefan, is this a will for participation from Microsoft, or is it the EU putting the pressure on companies like Microsoft, or is it a little bit of both?
That's always so hard to tell. I mean, when
Yeah.
people ask me, which they do regularly, who's to blame? How did this happen that we have this woke takeover of corporate America? And I always say it's more than one type of actor. So whether there are actual aligned interests within Microsoft and other companies, which given the role of the World Economic Forum and how these corporate leaders are all seemingly in bed with these, progressive ideas that censorship, it's the Orwellian censorship is free speech kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's certainly an issue, but it could also be, as you say, just purely people who want to just do business and act in a free market capitalist way, but are responding to the very strong arm tactics of the EU. Getting clear on that is important because those different types of actors are going to respond to different incentives. But it's again, it's unclear until you really get into the weeds with these individuals who you're dealing with. And the other thing to keep in mind, real quick, because I know we're coming up to the end of this segment, is these companies are huge, right?
Yeah.
Their bureaucracies and the layers of decision making goes deep. So you could have both a CEO thinking one way and a decision maker lower down thinking another way.
Stefan, I appreciate the work so much that you are doing with this. Folks, if you want to check out this work here, you got to go to the nationalcenter.org. If you go there, nationalcenter.org, there are several places that you can look at there. Of course, one of them is the Free Enterprise Project. So you go to programs, click the Free Enterprise Project, and you can follow the work that Stefan is doing. Stefan, thanks so much for joining us today, brother, and thank you all for being with us on what was really a somber day here at Financial Issues. Folks, we continue to fight. We win in the end. Let's be found good and faithful servants with what God has given to us, and let's be confident that our Lord is victorious, and so are we. We'll see you next time.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.